I don't miss the task, like not a
No,
bit.
could you even reach the
David,
tops there or no?
they put us on the back of a truck.
No.
I'll thank you
Yeah.
very much, Josh. Thank you for making the short joke.
So
Oh,
I had to.
do you want to make a lazy eye joke while we're at it? Just get it all in, or
I just thought you were looking at Dave. Love you, Diggs.
nice.
Trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Diggles Diamonds podcast. I am joined, as always, by my guy David Bentley, my wonderful co-host. Uh, Side note for those of you, well, you may not see this in time, but David's going to be in town tomorrow doing the Dunlap Washington game with me. So get
In
on
the
board for that,
Eagles
folks.
nest. Game on.
And yeah, you got to be careful with the Eagles nest. That was Hitler's hideout. Just
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Take that out on the edit.
And our guest today is someone who I am privileged to call a very good friend. Someone I'm privileged to work with frequently. Um, and just an all-around good guy to know because he's not just baseball smart, he's smart. So uh it's a nice to have. It's a nice go-to ace, I guess, or a phone a friend, whatever you want to call it. I am speaking of none other than Josh Kauten, the owner of Coach K's Academy, uh among his many titles, wound care expert by day, throwing coach, weight coach, diet coach, bourbon extraordinaire, bourbon knower, whatever.
Urban
Uh,
connoisseur. Okay.
Connoisseur. There we go.
Connoisseur.
Thank you for the fancy words. But Josh, welcome to the show, my friend.
Diggs, appreciate you having me. I'll Venmo you that 20 for the kind words. And David,
Well,
appreciate you guys having me on.
well, here I
Absolutely.
thought we were gonna do like one last push for the college summer arm development, and then I see the thing today. They're like, "Hey, we didn't advertise or nothing, but we still sold out for like the fifth straight year."
Sorry about it.
Yeah,
Got to get on board early or get out.
Save money on marketing.
yeah, for sure.
Amen to that.
It's his marketing guy's an asshole. So, so, um, wanted to get Josh on here because I'll be honest, folks. There's a small list of people I trust in the world of baseball. When they say they're going to do something, it gets done. When he tells me how a kid is performing, that's how the kid is performing. Uh, and I've just seen him do some really cool stuff at the facility in terms of the type of kids he works with, um, and all that. So, uh, Josh, I know one of your favorite stories to share is what Josh Couten was like as a high school junior and senior. Uh,
Uh,
give the kids at home a little hope.
yes. If nothing else, it's a, story of hope, I suppose. But I mean, the game has changed so much this day and age. I don't know if I grew up in this era, what it would have looked like, but certainly I was not exactly what you would call a very good prospect. Grew up in a small town of Iowa, about 5,000 people. We were the biggest town around for about 35 minutes we were sandwiched right between Cedar Rapids, Iowa and Waterloo, Iowa, in a town called Vinton Shellsburg. We were a co-op school, and our school was about 600 total, and we were 3A, which is third of the fourth. 4A was our highest class. So small town, played all the sports. If you had a lick of athletic ability, I needed everything. In Iowa, they play high school baseball, as most of you guys know. So football in the fall, basketball in the winter. I did wrestle. It's an Iowa obligation. I did that in the junior high. Decided that basketball was probably where it was going to be, of the two, I should say. It's my worst sport for sure. But then also ran track in the spring, and then played baseball in the summer. And there was also we knocked out the bowling. We started the bowling team my senior year, so no big deal. Five sport athlete. Look at that. Um, but no, I mean, I graduated high school at 6'3", 165. Maybe flashed like an 82 and 83, no command. Could always spin a breaking ball, decent. But other than that, I mean, not really marketable, wasn't good. I was like the number 4 pitcher on a small town of 5,000 people. Now we were an inordinate class. We were pretty good for a small school. We had a couple D1 guys, a couple pro guys, a couple uh, Division II football players. You know, pretty athletic class. I think of our senior class, I think we had about 12 guys from our high school team go play some college sport of some sort, whether it was basketball or football or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, in general, in terms of being a recruitable pitcher, I was not that. Um, I actually had only mostly offers from football offers to play cornerback, free safety, and punter. I could kick a ball. So I ran hurdles, so I had the stretchy hamstrings. But those were most of my offers, D3 football offers. A decent student. That's probably what saved me. And I actually ended up to my high school psychology class. One of my teachers, his name was Gordy Norgren. Still never know what that Gordy's talking about half the time. He speaks in riddles. Those psychology teachers, I don't know what he's
I
talking
was
about.
just gonna say that's a psychology teacher's job.
Yeah, I never know what he's talking about. But uh, I this is the dorkiest thing of all time, but I stayed in a lot and played chess with him during lunch period. And so we would talk baseball. He would happen to be the assistant coach for Kirkwood Community College up there in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, pretty powerhouse JUCO. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Back then, like people just didn't sign until late. But so I stayed and talked to him a little bit. Honestly, it's probably the only reason I even got a spot or an offer. I walked on to a JUCO at Kirkwood, which, if you walk onto a JUCO this day and age, you probably feel like you're down and out. But went from 5 sports to 1. Got dialed in and just, I mean, we didn't really have a weight program. We had like a leg sled and we had some like cable crossovers. I mean, we didn't have like a real weight program, no strength coach or anything like that. Just ate my face off with food. Lifted what I knew how, was just basically old school stuff. Do some squats, do some
Some bench
lunges, do some
squat.
push-ups, do some barbell bench, did some pull-ups. And then me and one of my best friends from back in the day, his name is Bill Zink, a 6'6" lefty. He went to Northern Iowa, but him and I would just play death matches of one-on-one basketball for hours and hours. And neither one of us wanted to quit. And we'd go back and forth. So that was kind of our conditioning. And, I put on probably 30 pounds in JUCO and ended up flashing a 90 my sophomore year. Still no command, no feel, not really sure what I was doing. But again, baseball is a very small world. As big as it is, everybody knows somebody. It's it's the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever it is, where everybody knows somebody 1 or 2 steps away. Well, Gordy Norgren had played at Florida International. I don't want to mix it up with Florida Atlantic, but Florida FIU. And one of his college roommates was Tim Johnson. So TJ was the pitching coach here at Illinois State. He says, "Hey, I got this arm. Take a look." I actually was basically already signed, sealed, and delivered to Northern Iowa, which is kind of like a foregone conclusion that you go there. But my dad and mom were divorced. My dad lived in Indianapolis, so Bloomington was dead smack in the center. I thought that was intriguing. Went on the visit and loved it, and that's it. So I went to Illinois State, put on another 20, 25 pounds, ended up running it up to 95 every once in a while. Still didn't know what the hell I was doing, but could throw a ball hard. Back then, hard anyways, I guess. But now it's like, yeah, and 95, so what? But that was that. Got a chance to play some pro ball, kicked around, learned a lot of things, learned what not to do a lot. Career didn't really go. Pro career was okay, didn't go how I wanted it to. And, everybody asked me what's your major? I don't know, baseball. And so I knew that, if I wanted my career to last longer, I was going to have to get this body to suck a whole lot less. And so after JUCO, where you just kind of get your gen eds, I don't know. So I went to kinesiology. It sounded cool. Started learning about the human body and how it worked. Really, I think applied some of those things to my own training. And then after pro ball, things didn't go well. I pretty much dedicated the next like 5 years of my life just like what just happened. Why was this happening? And then towards the end, I was supposed to be in pro ball, and I was pretty young. I was still only like 25. Like I should have been going this way. Instead, I was plateauing and going the other way. And if nothing else, I was for sure the guy that was going to outwork the next guy. I lacked a lot of things in the athletic department, but work ethic was not one of them, and competitiveness was not one of them. I was going to win, and I was going to, do whatever I had to do to fight, claw, scratch, and do whatever I had to do to win. And I was certainly not going to be outworked, because those are the things I could control. I wasn't blessed with the $1 million arm, but I knew I was chip on the shoulder, and I was out to shove it up someone's keister any day of the week. So
hey, we swear on this podcast.
I said keister. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to figure out like what happened, like why didn't it work, and so that's kind of that. Here I am, however many years later, 20 whatever years later, is just how can I leave it better than I found it? What things did we do from a training perspective that didn't make sense at the time? What do we know about the body now that we didn't know then? How can I just help the next guy that is the next me make it? You know what I mean? So that's a really long, rambly story, but I mean, honestly, that's what drives me every day. Is, I mean, everybody's career ends terribly, right? Unless you get the call to the hall, your career ended not how you wanted it. And I didn't make the big leagues, so in one sense, I feel like my career was a failure. But on the other hand, I kind of look back at it and think, I was probably playing with house money if I think about it. Probably had no business being where I was out of just sheer will and work ethic. So,
Not
it's
a lot of
double-edged
number 4
sword.
pitchers in Iowa get drafted.
Yeah, well, number 4 pitchers in small town cornfields. So
Yeah.
I literally remember detasseling at 5 a.m. and then practicing at 2 p.m. No shirts off, dead sauna winter or summer. So
I don't miss the tasseling. Not a
no,
bit.
could you even reach
David,
the tops there or no?
they put us on the back of a truck.
No.
I'll thank you very much, Josh. Thank you for making the short joke.
Had to.
Do you want to make a lazy eye joke while we're at it? Just get it all in, or
I just thought you were looking at Dave. Love you, Diggs.
Nice. David, if you've got a question, feel free to jump in here, because this could very quickly turn into old
sideways
home week.
quick. I do. I'll hit you with my hardest question, which isn't that hard, but I heard an interview you did on the topic of kids around the age of 15 throwing upper 80s close to 90. And you said, and I'm going to paraphrase, those kids at that age are not skeletally mature enough to sustain that velo without a high risk of injury. I completely agree. I think you went into growth plates and the medial epicondyle fracture risk. If tomorrow a kid walks into K's 15 years old, he's chucking 87, how are you handling that kid differently with their training plan if another kid walks in at the same time, 15 years old, throwing 77?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I get a kid that walks in and he's freshman and he's touching mid to upper eights, it's like, all right, let's look at the package. What do we know from first principles? Like, he's obviously figured something out how to move with his body. He's obviously going to be coveted by every single person in the world, and every elite national, super select platinum national team is going to try to, pawn him off and tout him all across the country. So the last thing that guy probably needs is more, high intensity type stuff. I'm going to try to protect that arm, not from a babying it standpoint, because I think that's the worst thing that we do in pitching these days is we somehow have decided that throwing less is going to protect an arm. Getting off topic, but I feel like everything we do is a sprint now, right? Like we never throw. If I was equating throwing to running, we never do like that intense but not max effort stuff. Like maybe I'm going to go run like a mile for time. I'm going to run an 800 for time. Cardiovascular, general physical preparedness type stuff where it's not maximal effort, but it's near maximal effort, but not your hardest, and you do it for sustainable and you do it for a lot of reps. Arm fitness is a term that we use a lot. Like I don't feel like we do a very good job of arm fitness. We shut people down for months on end, and then we bring them back and we say throw the ball as absolutely as hard as you can for 30 pitches and spin the hell out of a slider. When in reality, if we taught those guys to throw more at less intensity, I think they would build up more arm fitness, for what it's lack of a better term. So for that kid, I certainly would continue to throw him just at sub maximal. But I would really focus on, he's 15, 16, right? Like he's not physically mature. So the weight room needs to be his best friend. I need to teach him how to pick up a fork and pick up a barbell, rinse and repeat, and really just try to teach him some strategies to take care of his own arm and understand his own body a little bit. And then, work on pitch shapes and start to talk about strategy, that type of stuff. Obviously, it's a more advanced athlete, and you have to assume at 15 and 87-ish or whatever number you threw on it, like, he's going to put on weight. He's going to add velo. And so now it just becomes like, all right, if he's 87 and we take care of him and he gains, 2 to 3 miles an hour a year, and it's not just linear, right? Like, it's like, kind of curves at the top, but there's no reason that guy shouldn't be touching 3s and 4s by senior if we keep him healthy. And the best ability is availability. So with that kid, it's just managing expectations, adding weight, probably having to talk with dad or mom and to the kid and just saying, hey, like, here's what's coming your way in the next 2 years. Like, you need to understand it's okay to say no. It's okay not to go to that showcase. It's okay not to go to that tournament that, in November of the year that you think you have to go to get a scholarship. And the new recruiting rules certainly support that. So that was really long-winded, but
no, it was exactly what I was looking for, because it's a topic that's interests me. We've seen some kids. Cash Van Houten comes to mind. Throwing real hard, real early. One of the things that I love about K's is you guys, and a lot of people do this now. Trey Hannum does it. The remote athlete. Can you kind of walk us through a pitching session with a kid who lives 2+ hours away from Bloomington? Is this on Zoom? Is this, do you pre-record some things to tell them? Do they record something and send it back to you? How does that work to train a remote pitcher or athlete like that?
yeah. So, much like anything, from a, you know, entrepreneurial setting, it was just to solve a problem, really. We had a few instances, but the one that sticks out the most is Ben Hess, recent first round pick with the Yankees. He was driving up 2 times a week from Charleston, which is a haul, for a high school kid to make. Him and his dad or mom sometimes would make it at least 1, sometimes 2 times a week for about 2 consecutive years. And I just thought to myself, like, one, this is awesome that this kid who's an elite player. I remember saying the words, like, I don't know what a first round pick looks like as a high schooler, but I think it looks like this. He was pretty complete. Barring his injury, I think he would have been. He still was, but it was just like, this is amazing, and it was really humbling. But at the same time, it just didn't make sense, right? Like, how many Ben Hesses are out there trying to get help that don't have anybody near me? And someone who grew up in a rural place, there's no shot. It doesn't make business sense for me to build K's Academy in Vinton, Iowa. It's just not going to work, right? And so we started kind of building it out pre-COVID, mostly for the strength conditioning piece, because that was the easiest piece to do. And then we started adding the pitching stuff. So, we've been slow to roll it out, and then COVID hit, and obviously we had to accelerate, and we're still improving it. So Reed Burlingmeyer and myself, so Burley is an athlete of mine for 10 plus years, and he's now my director of remote training. But so now how it kind of works is, someone expresses interest. If they're semi close, if they're that 2.5 hour window, they can come in person for like a hybrid setting where maybe they come in person one time for like an evaluation, but they don't have to. I have guys that I've trained that I've never met in person. There's a second rounder from California that I helped rehab he was with the St. Louis Cardinals second rounder. But basically, how it works now is we just communicate everything through Zoom for the most part, and or a ton of cell phone video. So guys will pre-record a lot of stuff. They'll send it to us. We will analyze it. We'll send it back, and just kind of like give them tips and tricks. We try to do a movement assessment for motor preferences, mobility restrictions, soft tissue restrictions. But we can see a lot just based on movement patterns and then how they move in the weight room, and try to pick out deficiencies and hammer there. And then from a throwing perspective, they'll video us maybe doing like some plyo work, or send us videos from their bullpen, both from chest view, from catcher view, from center field view. They'll send us some true media stuff if they have it, data, and we're able to put together a pretty comprehensive plan from that perspective. And say, we have a bunch of resources built out. I think we've got over 1,000 video database on our YouTube, which is free, by the way, in public. You don't need a special code. If you go to YouTube, Coach K's Academy, it should pop up under there. Now you wouldn't know, like it's not tagged, and you wouldn't know like maybe what order to do the things, but there's playlists and all that kind of stuff that is free. But obviously the programming, we tell you exactly what to do. And they pull it up right now. It's on Google Sheets, and they just click it, and it takes you right to a video. They can plug in their stuff, and we just communicate that way back and forth. And the weight training one was pretty straightforward. The one challenge is like everybody. Well, there's a couple challenges, but the one is like, hey, I don't have this piece of equipment like you have. What do I do? And so I really went back and forth of like, what do we do there? And so I just built the whole thing out like they're training at K's. And just let them know, like basically one of the things they'll do is they'll send me a video of their weight room, and I can kind of modify pretty much anything to tailor what equipment they have. And from a pitching development standpoint, that one was probably the biggest challenge for me, for us to build it out, because I'm so used to, I see a pitch, hey, what did you feel? Talk to me, tell me, how'd you hold that pitch? Show me, like, what was your thought process? And so from pitch to pitch, we're making adjustments. And so there was definitely, in terms of building that side of the program out, it took some reps and some trial and some error and getting that dialed in. But now, we're pushing 4.5 years into the remote program, where we really started only kind of pumping it out for the last year and a half, just because I'm a big believer of do things right, and it'll take care of itself. But if you kind of push out a crap product, you're going to spend a bunch of time trying to fix it on the back end. So we really tried to slow roll it and make sure we had things really dialed in before we started kind of pumping it out. But we feel like we're in a good spot. We're getting a lot of really good results and good feedback, and things are going well.
Along those same lines, if you were to get, say, 50 remote clients in a condensed area, such as the southwest suburbs of Chicago, would you ever consider opening up a smaller second K's if you had obviously trustworthy staff that say, one of your guys, one of your directors or whatever said, yeah, I'd go up there. Would that ever cross your mind, or do you like your headquarters and you like the way the remote stuff is going now?
Never say never, but man, bricks and mortar are tough. It's just, space is so expensive. Ironically, I don't know if I should put this out in a podcast, but whatever. Here we are, exclusive.
We only get like 70 views a
Okay.
week, so you're fine.
Well, all
Half
70
of those
people.
are my family.
Yeah.
But I was, I'm always looking ahead, like what's my 3, 5, 10-year goals, right? Like what's next? And I kicked around the idea of K's 3.0. Like what does a mega facility look like? And
Looks like it's in Goodfield.
well, based on the cost of everything, it looks like it's nowhere. It's just the quote on it was just wild, like wild, wild. So yeah, I mean, just the space required to do things like to have a full fledged is just massive. Which is why you see travel organizations run, 6 teams deep at each age level.
Yeah.
Part of it is, maybe they're just cashing in, but part of it is like they have some of these big facilities, and those things are massive cash cows. So yeah, I don't know that I would probably open up another location ever, to be honest with you, but never say never. But I think try to expand the home base HQ, as it were, and kind of expand our partnership that way through more of the remote and hybrid means is probably where we're at right now. If I have to get one more flooded toilet on a Saturday morning, man, not sure I can handle it and drive up to Chicago.
That men's room toilet is a not a pleasant thing.
You see that wall of bourbon, right? Like that's
Yeah.
from facility ownership right there.
Nice. Nice. I want to talk about one of your mentors, a guy by the name of Jim Van Scoy.
The goat.
Uh, yeah, if you folks don't know, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but Jim Van Scoy he's a legend. What do you end up winning? 12 of the 20 state titles, something like that?
I think it's more than that. I think it's like 18 or
Maybe
something like that.
maybe
18
it's
state
19. I think it's
titles and
19, actually. Yeah. So Coach Van Scoy is a legend. He's I it's one of the few times I've ever stood in a coaches meeting and just went, "Well, I'm beat." Like I just remember standing at home plate at Solon High School or Solon or however that you say it,
Solon.
and Solon, and I was just like, "We are cooked." I walked back. Steve Paxton was with me. I said, "You see that guy over there?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "That guy is one of the best baseball coaches in the history of America." We do not have a prayer today. So tell
He's
me a little about your relationship with Jim.
Yeah, Coach V, man. So just dumb luck, sometimes you meet. I heard a good analogy. Luck is like a bus stop. It comes along multiple times, maybe more than you think it does. It just depends if you have the fare ready to get on the bus. Um, and I was at the bus stop at the right time. Coach Van Scoy had just gotten out of pro ball, moved back home to Cedar Rapids, and that was my freshman year. And it was probably exactly what I needed to, kind of grow up a little bit. Maybe wasn't the most mature and responsible 17, 18-year-old, but man, he wanted to probably throat punch me half the time, but also hug me a lot of the times. I think just because I think maybe he saw someone that was just willing to do whatever it took to win, and maybe to a fault. And he took me under his wing, and I was an absolute project to say the least. And he ended up being like a father figure to me, and maybe more of a grandpa. But he still is. I don't talk to him as much as I would like to, but I still stay in touch with him and talk to him probably 3-4 times a year. And ended up training both of his sons at one point or another, or both of his grandsons, I should say. His son played in the Yankees organization for a hot minute. Aaron is his name. And then his two grandsons, Spencer, well, two of his grandsons, Spencer and Connor, both played professional baseball. So Spencer was the Friday night guy at Arizona State as a freshman. Ended up in the Phillies organization, left-handed pitcher, and ended up retiring a couple years back after getting released, and actually went back to college because he got drafted and wasn't done, and he's golfing
Nice.
at Mount Mercy. So still got some golf eligibility, as it turns out. And then Connor Van Scoy right now, I think he's bouncing somewhere between double and triple A with the Rockies. He was drafted by the Angels out of high school, and he got traded straight up for Mike Moustakas, the Moose. So he's still in the Rockies organization with McCade Brown, as it were. So
Nice. Nice. Very cool. That's always I don't know. Go watch I pimp this movie all the time, but go watch the movie The Final Season, folks. Great
yeah, so
movie. And
the final season is about the goat, Coach V, and it's about, in small towns get squeezed out, and so it's about his school basically collapsing in Norway, Iowa, from an administrative state and all the challenges. And he said it, they Hollywooded it up a little bit, but for the most part, the story is pretty accurate. That field that they shot on, I've played at that field a hundred
That's the Colonel's
times.
home field, isn't it?
Well, the state championship is, but when they show like the field of them just playing at the Norway field, like
Oh yeah.
that is the Norway field. And I played there summer high school, my senior or my freshman rising sophomore year, played in the league there where they have it's like a Sunday morning, Peoria Sunday morning league, but not, it's like mostly college players, but some ex-pro guys and that are still maybe older, but still kicking around. So like, you know, Aaron Van Scoy played in that league. And so here I am, a 19-year-old kid, and I don't know, he's probably 30, 31 at that time. I think he wore garden gloves as batting gloves, like leather garden gloves. And he took me Oppo, Homer. I'm like, gosh damn it. This old grandpa just took me Oppo. So, yeah, I mean, I've played at that field dozens and dozens of times. But the funny thing about that video or that movie, when you watch it at the end, the guy who plays like the villain, like the unbelievable pitcher who's really, really, really good and everybody hates because he's a dick. That was my high school teammate. His name's Josh Marino. And he was actually my Kirkwood freshman teammate as well. He played some pro ball with the Rockies. He's still probably, I would put him in the top 5 best athletes I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he moved from California. He was like 6'5". He threw 92 out of high school for no apparent reason. Could windmill dunk, ran a 6'6", and hit 19 homers his senior year.
Wow.
And just was that guy. Played for the Rockies, had TJ, and ended up getting out. But so he had just finished his pro career. So I mean, in that video, I mean, he like legit was 1 year out of pro ball, touching like 92, 94.
Hmm.
So he did a good job, but it was funny.
Nice. Nice. Talk a little bit about, you've talked about the facility and you've talked about how you would handle certain situations, but talk about the culture you've created at K's, because that is one of the things that I love about being over at the facility is, you could have a kid, a high school kid working, in one tunnel, and, somebody like Ryan Cermak, the Rays second round pick a couple years ago, just happens to be walking by and, stops and goes, "Hey, throw that slider again. Let me see that." And it's just such it's almost egalitarian. Like there's no, "Hey, I'm a big leaguer, don't talk to me." It's like, "No, man, what do you need to know?" Like, "Hey, how can I help you? How can I motivate you?"
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the coolest things I think when I walk into the facility, and I've got a Brent Hedrick and a Nathan Lavender, and McCade Brown chilling, doing their lift, and then you've got a high school guy that is doing their lift, and then you've got a junior high kid doing their lift, and a junior high guy might come up to him and be like, "Excuse me, Mr. Hedrick," and he'll sign an autograph, no problem. So it's very cool. Again, maybe just got lucky with the athletes that we work with. Maybe it's the Midwest nature of, we're all kind of underdogs here in the Midwest and Central Illinois. And maybe guys had to work a little bit harder than someone who was just woke up with $1 million arm or something. But it is very, very cool to kind of see the top generation kind of giving back to, whether it's a college guy back for the winter over the break. Winter break is one of my favorite times, man. You've got the guys that just graduated college. They come back. They haven't seen their high school buddies for a while. So you've got like, guys dapping each other up and like, "How's it going? Haven't seen you." They're in there with lifting, and you've got the pro guys there, and you got the high school guys there. And it's chaos from a scheduling standpoint, but
Well, and that doesn't even count. Like at some point, Ben Brewster might wander through, and Noah Junis, and like it's not just the kids; it's some of the best pitching coaches that we know, like hanging out in one place over the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, that was cool. It was random. I mean, so Ben's wife is from the Springfield area, so he comes back every winter, and we stay in contact and just talk shop. Obviously, what they're doing down there in Tread is pretty remarkable. So it's just good to chop it up and talk shop with other peers in the industry, and talk about what they're doing and where they see things going and what mistakes they've made, so I can try to not make them, and vice versa.
Very nice. Very nice. David, you got anything?
How old's the youngest athletes you've got coming in, Josh?
Well, if parents had it their way, I think we had a dad one time ask if we would do lessons for a 4 year old. It's like,
Ooh,
that's a hard pass, bud. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird, right? From a business perspective, like what we do foundationally is pitching development. I mean, I'm biased because that's what I do. It's what I'm most passionate about. But um, you know, I think we would be remiss if we don't serve our community a little bit. And so we have resources, right? We have the space, we have resources, we have the coaches in town to coach all of the skills, at the very least at a very high level for high school athletes and some college athletes. So we do in-house train all of the things from fielding to catching to hitting, and obviously strength conditioning. And so that trickles down into the younger population, the junior highs and the 12s and 10s. But um, you know, it just kind of depends on the type of the season. But our coaching staff, number one, out of necessity, probably have to do more of the 10-year-olds than they would like to do sometimes. But I actually really respect having to do the 9 and 10-year-olds, just because this is going to sound crazy, but if I'm being blunt and honest, like, did I love giving lessons to 9 to 10-year-olds back in the day? Like, not really. But yeah, but what it did is it forced me to take all of the things that I was thinking in my brain and distill it down into like the simplest, like, just most plain language I could think of to get a 10-year-old to figure out how to move how I wanted him to. And that's actually really helped me a lot with my pro guys. I mean, I'll use some of the same cues with my 10-year-old as my pro guy. The difference is the pro guy says got it and does it the next pitch, and the 10-year-old I tell him 17 different ways for 12 weeks, and I want to pull my hair out. But
Or they'll get it and look great for the rest of that lesson. And
yeah,
then they come back next week and you say, okay, do the thing we talked about. And they go, what the
yeah, yeah. It's like, okay. So yeah, no, you get pretty good at, like, after a while, tips and tricks of like, hey, did you do your homework? And you give them fun homework that you gamify it. So, you get a 9-year-old that can't even lift his leg without falling over. It's like, all right, you got to brush your teeth on one leg. And, dads will send me videos of, little Timmy brushing his leg and falling over every 13 seconds. But just try to gamify it and do stuff like that. And honestly, that same principle, again, trying to think from first principles, I mean, that works all the way up to the big leagues. How can I gamify stuff? How can I challenge guys? How can I monitor? How can I compete with myself? What have you? So
I think if you can really help some kids get into good habits and away from bad habits if their attention span is enough, even at the 10, 11 age. Whereas a kid who doesn't go to K's or another place that just gets their dad to say, you know what, you need to do this. It's just they could go up until they're 17 without any tutelage. And the kid who came in to see you at 10 or 11, where you harped and reiterated, they will remember. The ones that love it, I do believe that they will remember some of those fundamentals. And that's why I think it's a good thing, even at the young age of 10, to train one-on-one lessons. I think you can burn them out. You know all this better than I do, but
oh yeah.
I have a 9-year-old, and I have to be very cautious not to burn him out. But he does get excited for pitching lessons and certain coaches. Not to say that all the coaches aren't fine, that we've seen for one-on-one, there hasn't been much, but there are certain personalities that he really gravitates towards and says, "Hey, when are we going to have a hitting lesson with so and so?" I'm like, "All right, well, schedule one now." So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? If he's asking that, then you're winning, right?
yep.
And so when we're hiring new coaches, especially if I know like, all right, like I'm hiring a hitting coach for youth, I don't need that hitting coach to know like, you know, what the insertion point of like the hip flexor is. Like, I don't need him to understand fascial network. I need him to be high energy and have fun, and deliver a quality like lesson so that the kid wants to come back and he's having fun. And it shifts at a certain point, right? So my only goal with my son right now, and he's 9 as well, is I want him to want to come back. I want him to have fun. I want him to have some easy wins, some early success, and for him to want to do it. And honestly, it right now I'm pretty lucky. Sometimes it wears me out, but the dude just is a machine right now. I mean, we're doing baseball trivia on the way home, and we're playing ML. I kind of hacked the system. I'll be honest, it was kind of strategic. But when he was 7, they really stink with the rules of like base running and outs and
Tagging up.
yeah, they just don't get it. And so he loved stupid video games, and I was like, you know what? I'm like at heart, I'm probably a video. Had they had video gaming scholarships when I was playing, this might be a different conversation. But I'm man. I bought when I buy video games, like I can't put them down until I beat them. It's the competitive nature. Like I'm gonna beat it until they come out with these games where you can't beat them, like Halo 2 and Call of Duty, and you're playing against the whole world. That was the worst thing for me ever. But anyways, I bought him MLB, the show. I didn't have a PlayStation intentionally because I was, you know, made it. I didn't want to have a PlayStation or an Xbox for my own personal sanity, but I bought it for him, of course, and bought him MLB the show. And I'm just telling you that. I mean, he's doing the stances. He knows within like a winter, he knows the rules. He's like, dude, I'm Jackie Robinson. I'm hitting home runs, and so it's awesome. He's all in and wants to do it. So, but yeah, I mean, I think there is a switch. There's a time that flips, right? Like, have fun until you're about 13, and then it's like, all right, um, I still want to have fun at 13, but it's more about development, and it's like, now it is like it's time to win at 13, 14, and as you get prepped into high school, because that jump from the bases when they go to 60, 90, you're going to get exposed real quick if you don't have the physical maturity to throw the ball across the diamond from 130 feet away. So the guy who's been good at 54 feet sometimes gets exposed real quick at 60, 90.
One thing I've been doing is trying to take my whole family really, but um, to Major League Baseball games, and we're not doing monthly, but what I am doing is saving up, and when we do go, get pick a game where my son's favorite player is Ellie De La Cruz. So
My
I got
sons too.
I got Cincinnati at Milwaukee, which is the easiest commute, believe it or
Yeah.
not, from where I live. And I got second row right by Cincinnati's dugout. So Ellie would run right past us in and out every inning. And he even waved allegedly to us, but really to the whole crowd. And Gavin, my son, thought he was waving to him. And we bought a bunch of Brewers gear while we were there. And Gavin said, I don't want any because I don't want Ellie to be mad at me wearing Brewers gear. And things like that. Talk about like just throwing gas on the fire of love for baseball. That has worked. And I suggest anybody listening, if your son is teetering on maybe, oh, I like football better, or they're getting burnt out, take a step back, take them to a real game, do something cool, play MLB the show. Of course, my son has a season going, and he traded like Judge to the Reds so he could play with Ellie. He created himself, so now Gavin is a second baseman, left-hander. It's an interesting squad he's put together as a GM. But those kind of
Nice.
things fan the flame of the love of baseball.
I think we're in 2035 as the LA Dodgers. We've got Ellie De La Cruz is like 39 years old, and we got it's to the point now where there's like no names of anybody you know. So we got MLB 225, so we're starting over.
I like it.
We
Nice.
we picked the
Nice.
Yankees, unfortunately. My son is a real bandwagon at the moment, but Dodgers because they were winning, and then the Yankees because of Brent Hedrick. So I'll give it to him.
Yeah, take the wins where you can, man.
There it is.
Uh, let's talk a little bit about you know, one of the things that you always hear about it's a pretty common attempted put down for a lot of these keyboard warriors, but like, oh, well, he's just highlighting the good kids that he works with. But one of my favorite things about you is you are literally just as passionate in helping that kid just make his high school team. Like, not even like, he may contribute, he may not, but he got cut last year, and you've helped him make it. Talk a little bit about working with that type of athlete as opposed to, not that Ben Hess was, automatic by any means. Benny worked his butt off, but obviously he had some arm talent there that we saw that first night at the Slugger Dome when he was 14 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to my own story, right? Like, I think you start to see people you know, see you and other people, so to speak. But I didn't make an A team, so to speak, until I pretty much had to. My rising junior season in high school, I got asked to play on an AAU team, which was a thing back then. I don't know if they still are, but that was like our travel baseball. But before that, I mean, I didn't make an A team ever. And so I wonder in this day and age how many kids, if they don't, or if they're on the B team, so to speak, all the way up until sophomore junior year, do they just quit? um I don't know if I was just oblivious or what. I didn't care. I mean, I cared because I was pissed I didn't make the A team, but I just decided I was going to be the best player on my team as much as I could, and I just wanted to play and compete, and I loved it. And obviously I wanted to be better, but um, I don't know. I never had the thought of like, well, I quit because I'm not on the A team. It was just I'm pissed and I'm going to shove it up their butt when we play them when the B team plays their A team. I'm going to shove it. Watch this. I think it was maybe just the chip on my shoulder, and I'm always ready to fight, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see that too much anymore. I think guys get dejected, and you know, I'm not on the A team. I stink. And then I say, have you heard of this guy named McCade Brown? Um, you know, 78 miles an hour as a sophomore is laughable, right? But just people develop at different speeds, right? It's just not everybody, is fully grown at 15. And so if a guy loves it and wants to do it and he's willing to put in the work, I want to help that kid. So again, whether it's McCade Brown become who McCade Brown has become, or whether it's, Billy make his high school team, because that's happened a bunch of times too, where guys get cut as juniors and they don't make their high school team. 9 times out of 10, that kid hangs him up. He's like, I'm out. But for someone to get cut as like a junior and just say, well, I didn't make my team. I'm here to work out 5 days a week and figure it out. I'm like, that kid. I want to help that kid. Like he's not gonna win any massive awards, but like that kid's gonna win a life. So I mean, I don't know.
Evan Farner's kid last year got cut, and now
Yeah.
he is all region in one of the toughest high school baseball conferences and areas in the United States and probably the world. Um,
Yeah, man. Nolan,
he is
Nolan, same deal, man. He put in the work. Evie and I and Knox were on some group text threads, and super happy for him. And he did stop in when he was back for like one day of BP, so I can take credit for that, right?
absolutely. He grew 3 inches too. That always helps. Evan said his trajectory was the same as far as height, and I can remember because we didn't know him. Nobody knew who he was until he appeared senior year at 6'2", having been like 5'9" the year before, and he taught himself that curveball, and everyone goes, "Who's this guy?" And so yeah, I know exactly the type of kids you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if a kid's willing to put in the work, um, and has a good attitude, and I'm willing to help them, whether it's a 92 to 94 guy or an 81 to 82 guy. I mean, it doesn't matter for me.
Nice. I want to finish up by talking about your decision to enter into the world of travel baseball with Rhino K's.
Yes.
And full disclosure, I am a member of that organization, as you can see by the hat. Um, but I just, I want to get your thoughts on, what you've done, what has gone right so far, what did you not anticipate about it, and most importantly, where do you see this thing going in the future?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I never really wanted to do it. I never really set out to do it. Travel ball's got a lot of faults. Everybody can start their own team these days, and Billy got cut, so I'm going to start my team, and I'm going to go to this elite platinum team, and you got like the pyramid scheme model of like, if you're really good you don't have to pay, but if you're less good you have to subsidize so that the good kid gets to play for free. Like, ah, I I don't want to be a part of that part, but at the same time it's like, okay, Bloomington Normal's travel ball scene was a little unique. And we had people kind of starting to leave town to go play at other places. And they did good jobs where they went. Chicago Elite being one of those clubs. Brian Fristic, does a really good job up there, and we text often, and we're still good friends from that standpoint.
Did
But
not realize Furistic was the first player drafted, or the first player that Troy Horner drafted. I just learned that
uh,
today.
did not know that either. There you go.
Yeah.
But no, it was just kind of one of those things, like, none of this stuff was like set out like, I've got this, like, I'm going to do this and then do that. It was just, I'm solving one problem at a time. It was, the lesson model was broken. How can I do something better for the athlete? Hey, this thing is better. It's cheaper. It's more time. It serves the athlete. It's better on the parents. It helps the player. Hey, look, winter arm care. Oh my gosh, now it's a thing. And hey, how can we serve our community? And so you had these parents that were like, dude, I have to drive all the way up to Chicago on a Sunday to go to practice. And it's like, why? And they're like, well, we're on the Chicago team, or I'm driving an hour and a half this way and an hour and a half that way. I'm like, well, why don't you stay in town? Like, well, we don't feel like XYZ. Would you ever be willing to start a team? And I'm like, nope. Uh,
Hard
so,
pass.
well, I mean, it's just one is like, I didn't have the staff to do it. I know that my wife will absolutely slit my throat if, I do it. And I don't want to, truthfully, one of the reasons I got out of college baseball is like, how am I going to see my own kids play sports when I'm gone every weekend? You know what I mean? And so much respect to those college coaches that do it. I don't know how they make it work. And I've got tons of friends, and, really good friends in college baseball. Um, and I loved college baseball. I loved it, but it was like, man, I don't know, how do I do both? How do I be a good dad, and how do I be a good husband, and do the college baseball thing? And my wife's a townie, so if we're going to go high, we're probably gonna have to move across the country. Is that something I want to do? And we decided as a family it wasn't what was best for our family, so we got out. But I mean, we were already training the guys, right? Like, we were already training them all winter, doing work with them, communicating back and forth. Um, and then kind of what pushed us over the edge, I guess, a little bit, is after like 4 or 5, 6 years of us doing the winter arm care, and guys having really good success and results, and it started picking up steam. I think other organizations started seeing that as a financial opportunity. And I mean, if I had another organization and my player was going somewhere else, I would be like, well, I would look internally and be like, well, obviously we're not providing enough value, or, people are going elsewhere for stuff. So obviously we need to do a better job. So I don't fault them for that. But basically what teams would do is they would start forcing guys to do their version of like pitching development in the winter, no matter how substantiated it was, or, how good or bad or ragtag it was. Um, and again, each organization did it differently, but basically what it, sorry, little thing back. But what it did was basically force us, is like, okay, like if these clubs are going to start forcing their players to pay it, like as a parent, I'm not going to pay it and then like turn around and pay it again just because I want to go over here. And so it's like, well, it is what it is. We're going to get on board, I guess. And if you can't beat them, join them, I guess. So, but I had the right class, right? I had the right class of athletes to start it. I had the right parents. The community had the appetite for it. And it was kind of an experiment of like, we'll see how this goes. And it's been awesome. Todd Mitchell, and Heineman, and, Nick Heineman, the dad's kind of pestered me enough, I guess, to get me to do it. Mike Swartz and John Michaels, and all the dads just like, dude, you got to do this for the community. It's gonna be awesome. And so we pulled it together, and we had the right group of guys. And again, Matt Stevens is another one too. And we just had the right guys to do it, and the right family, and the right mindset about here's what it's going to be. And it's been awesome. Todd Mitchell, obviously, our model wasn't exactly dads to be the coaches. But when you have dads with professional baseball experience, I mean, that's a little bit different. And so we've had Todd Mitchell basically running the 17Us, and he's been nothing short of amazing in terms of culture and expectations, and making young men into, young boys into young men. And I would say the thing that I want Rhino K's to be more than anything, like, I guess we're probably guilty of it, I guess, but man, maybe I'm an old head, but the fundamentals, when I talk to my college coach teammates, they talk, or buddies, they're like, it's so hard to have a freshman right now because nobody plays fundamental baseball. Like everybody wants to be social media good. I mean, I'm going to post that one homer that I hit and pimped it, but also I went 1 for like my last 30 with 17 strikeouts, but I post my homer. Or, I'm going to post me touching a 90 with a 20 vert. I don't post the fact that I've got like, 4 walks, to 1 strikeout. Nobody, I'm not saying nobody, but I just feel like the game at the youth level and high school level it's not winning college baseball level baseball at a lot of places. It's me ball, it's eyeball. I want to get recruited. I want to do this. I want to look like that. And I think college coaches they're in a position right now where they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to take a high school guy. And truthfully, they're probably not going to take a high school guy unless they're studs. I talked to a college Division I coach last night that basically said, hey, like, we brought in 8 freshmen last year in the 24 class. With us going from 30 to 30, from 40 to 34, we're only bringing 3 of them back, and we've only got 2 26s committed. And we're not looking for another single high school guy right now. Everything's going to be JUCO or portal. So, I just think if you're, as a college coach, if your career's on the line, who are you taking? You taking a junior that's figured it out and can get to class on time and get to school and can play fundamental baseball and winning college baseball, or you taking a chance on a high school junior? It's a tough market out there, and it's come on so fast and so quick. I mean, people's heads are spinning, and I feel bad for the 26s and the 27s. Like, they're getting absolute hosed on the whole recruiting front, but you don't have to like it. It's just the reality of the situation. Right. And so I think in terms of like what I want Rhino K's to be is I want guys to walk onto college campus in the August of their freshman year, and I want their college coach to be like, whoa, like that MFer can play. I mean, he's taking the extra base. He's leaning into it. He's competing in the strike zone. He commands two pitches, and he's not soft when he crosses the white lines. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I would want out of Rhino K's when they get to college, and the college coaches know that Rhino K's players, not just talent wise and arm talent wise and 60s and all the metrics. I mean, these guys are tough. They can deal with failure when they get punched in the face as a freshman, because you're going to get punched in the face as a freshman, that they're going to get back up and show up the next day. They're not going to fold and cry and go in the transfer portal.
Nice. Well, that is all I've got, Mr. Bentley. Do you have anything else for Mr. Kauten?
Final question. Favorite retro baseball video game?
It's got to be Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just OG
That's a good one.
Nintendo. Nintendo 64. No, Super
Oh,
Nintendo.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Super Nintendo. Ken Griffey, Mark McGuire, all jacked up. Sammy Sosa.
Yes.
They really did highlight the gosh, it was almost like those guys were drawn with like that draw a human being with circles. Like you could tell like we started with an arm and then we put a circle at the wrist, and
Didn't
it was
matter,
fun.
man. Griffey had the flow.
He did.
He had the flow. He had the backwards hat.
Was there a Frank Thomas video game?
Probably, but it was probably trash. So me and Frank Thomas, I know we're trying to go, but I grew up a White Sox fan, huge White Sox fan. I have 100 Frank Thomas baseball cards, 7th grade language arts. We had to write a letter to a famous person. So I sent him like one of my best baseball cards, my best Frank Thomas cards. It was like my 3rd or 4th best because I wasn't positive. Never got it back. So never got it back. So
damn you, Big Hurt.
Damn you, Big Hurt. I actually have all my cards right there. My best baseball cards right in my bourbon.
Nice. Mine are right over there.
Bust out some Frank Thomas cards.
I told Bentley I stopped yesterday and bought every Paul Skeens card that they had in the case.
It's a good investment.
Yeah,
he's okay.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
He's decent.
Well, Josh Kauten, I can't thank you enough, brother, not only for coming on this, but just you're such I've told people this forever. You're a positive influence in my life and have helped me make some changes, and you're still trying to help me make some changes. And so it's damn good to have people like you in my corner. So I appreciate
all you guys
you.
Do for Central Illinois and the baseball athletes in Central Illinois, help them get exposure, and love that you guys are starting the podcast and doing things you love.
Absolutely. Well, I will catch you down the road, my friend, Mr. Bentley.
Thanks for coming on, Josh.
Appreciate you guys. Take care.
All right. See you, dude.
Cheers.
There we go.